Discussing today is Mechiras Chometz. And the entire concept of Mechiras Chometz in Shulchan Aruch is in Tov Memches in the context of Chometz she'over olav Pesach. And in Siv Gimel we learn Chometz shel Yisrael she'over olav Pesach also benu afilo nicha b'shoigeg o b'yonis. Ve'im achroi oinosnoi b'maton ala eino Yehudi shemachutz l'bayis koydem HaPesach אף על פי שיסור מכירו אלא אין יהודי, ויודע בו שלא יגוי כלל, אלא ישמרן אלוהי עד לאחר הפסח ויחזור ויתנן אלוהי מותר, ובלבד שיתנן אלוהי מתון הגמורה, בלי שום תנאי, או שימכרן אלוהי מחירי גמורה, בדבר מועט. אבל מתון על ההחזיר לא מעני. We will not go into the details of מתון על ההחזיר, just more basically, I want to reach some practical questions regarding Chometz she'over olav Pesach. But the very first source of Chometz she'over olav Pesach regarding Chometz that was sold to a goy is a brayso Tosefta Masechet Psochim Perik Beis Halacha Yud Beis. And in the brayso we learn Yisol the goy sheboy mitzvino. They're on a boat, they're on a ship. And the Jew becomes aware he won't get home before Pesach, and he has Chometz in his house, and he doesn't want to forego that Chometz. So the brayso says he could sell it to a goy, and even though he knows that the goy will give it back to him after Pesach, ubervad sheyeteneno maton gemura. And this brayso is not brought in Bavli; it is brought in Yerushalmi and Psachim Daf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. So the brayso and the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, Chometz, Mechiras Chometz was coincidental and personal, very different than the minhag in our days, in which it is institutionalized and general. So what we learn in the Tosefta and in all the poskim till 200 years ago, if it comes to be, if it transpires that a person can burn his chometz, he's far away from home, then he could sell the chometz to a goy. And that is why they didn't really go into many details how to sell chometz to a goy. So this is a brayso brought in Yerushalmi, brought in the Rambam. But the Rishonim didn't even discuss the details. How does one sell chometz to a goy? It wasn't very common. It wasn't the milsa de shchicha, and they relied, well, learn chosher mishpat and know how to sell chometz to a goy. But the first sources that Mechiras Chometz turned into a formal and routine minhag goes back 200 years. In the days of the Chassam Sofer, there still was no general Mechiras Chometz. How do we know that? Because the Chassam Sofer in Siman Kuf Yud Aleph and Orach Chaim writes that when a Rav speaks to his Kehillah, Shabbos Shuvah, it's kedai to instruct them, how to sell Chometz to a goy if they need to sell Chometz. So it is obvious that in the days of the Chassam Sofer, the Rav wasn't the one to sell the Chometz of the entire community. So our minhag today is that everybody comes to the Rav to sign a shtar harashah, and a shtar harashah is just to authorize the Rav to sell their chometz, and the Rav is the one that deals with Mechiras Chometz. The one that deals with the non-Jew, with the goy, is the Rav. So in the days of the Chassam Sofer, that was not formalized, and obviously the Rabbanim didn't sell the chometz of their communities, because the Chassam Sofer says that it's kedai that a Rav instructs his congregation, his kehillah, in the Shabbos Agadol Drosha, how to sell chometz. The Yeshuas Yankov was a contemporary of the Chassam Sofer, Ben Doiroi, and they actually had a shaykhus one with the other. And the Yeshuas Yankov writes in Siman Tov Memches, Shumati sheyesh b'miktzas ha'kehillas a new minhag, that the Rav sells the chometz of the entire community, and he is mishabeach that minhag. The first controversy and the first discussion regarding this minhag we find a few years after the Yeshuas Yaakov and the Sholem Eshev and Shalas Teshuvas Oiri V'Yishi. Not a very well-known sefer. He was the Rav of Weiss, which is one of the important kehillas in Romania, and he was the Yasser Rav. I think his name was Rabbi Avram Moshe Toibes, and a sefer Oiri V'Yishi, Siman Kuf Yud Aleph. He totally rejects the minhag of a general Mechiras, and it is obvious from his tshuva that in the beginning stages of this new minhag, the people sold the Chometz to the Rav, and the Rav then further sold the Chometz to the Goy. And that was a great achrayus that the Rabbanim took upon themselves, because if their Mechira to the Goy wasn't valid, and it didn't really work out, then they're over Bal Yaro, Bal Yamotza, and 10,000 tons of Chometz, Maybe a person takes responsibility on his own Chometz, he does his best to look for the Chometz and to sell it. So the original minhag was that everybody sold his Chometz to the Rav, and then the Rav sold all the Chometz that he purchased onto the Goy. But in the Shuvah Sholem Eshev, we already find the new version, which is what we do up to this very day. That the community, the individual members of the community don't sell the Chometz to the Rav, they authorize the Rav to be their Shaliach to sell their Chometz to the Goy, and that is what we do up to this very day. So the Orev Yishi is against Sholem Eshev. Madura Beis Chelik Beis Siman Ayin Zayin is against the minhag. Reb Shlomo Kluger, quoted in a sefer called Shalas Teshuvas Nois Desha, is for the minhag. So going back almost 200 years, there were Deis Lakan or Lakan, different opinions, but this minhag today became very commonplace. And B'kol Ir V'Ein V'Yisrael, B'kol Kehillas Yisrael, the minhag is that various different members of the community authorize the Rav to sell their Chometz. And most people don't even have any Chometz, but L'Rav Chedem Ilse. Just in case we do have some Chometz, they sell the Chometz to a Goy by the agency of a Rav. So this is the development of the minhag of Mechiras Chometz. Very well known the opinion of the Bechor Shor. The Bechor Shor is the Baal Tevuas Shor, and in Bechor Shor Pesachim Chof Aleph, the Bechor Shor makes a fundamental and controversial argument, and he says, we do not rely on Haroma only by Nisa Darabanan, and that's the Gemara Mefareshes in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Omid Beis, and therefore we cannot rely on Mechiras Chometz only regarding the Darabanan. So. And this Bechor Shor is the reason many people are makbid not to sell Chometz Gomer, and many people are makbid not to buy Chometz Gomer that was sold by others to a Goy, and it is all based on the Bechor Shor. What is the Bechor Shor dealing with? The Bechor Shor is dealing with people that have farmers. And in their days, almost every person had in his own yard, in his own possession, either sheep or chickens or ducks, and they used to feed those animals with Chometz. And the question is, what are you going to do with your chickens and your ducks 7 days of Pesach? Try to give them kneidlach, you probably won't eat. Or give them matzah. So most of the food that was offered to those chickens or ducks or different animals was Chometz. So many had a minhag to sell their entire lul, to sell the animals and the food to a non-Jew. So the non-Jew bought the animals, and they also bought the Chometz to feed those animals. And the Bechor Shor says, no, you cannot rely on that, because we're dealing with an Issa Hanoah of Chometz. Issa Hanoah of Chometz is an Issa D'Oraisa. So when we're dealing just with selling the Chometz, we shouldn't be over on Bal Yarov or Bal Yamotz, it's no problem. Because the Gemara says in Davov, Midi Uraisa bebitul, Dav Daradom et Beis, Midi Uraisa bebitul Baal Mesagi. So when you do Bittul Chometz, you're only dealing with the Rabbanan. Chachamim said you cannot rely on bittul. You need to do bedika as well. That's the first toises of Masechet Psachim. So we steer clear from a chashash diuraisa by bittul chometz. It's only the rabbanon. The rabbanon samchinen al harama. But if you want to sell chometz gomer to feed your animals, and you're selling the animals together with the chometz to a non-Jew, then we need this mechira to be valid. If not, we're going to be over on issa diuraisa, which is issa noam chometz, and we cannot rely on a rama regarding an issa diuraisa. So the Bechor Shor just came to reject a minig which today is no longer relevant. We don't have chicks and we don't feed them chometz. However, I was asked many times, people that have aquariums and they have fish, and some of the food that they feed the fish is chometz. But I wrote that I don't think there's any chashash because fish food is not ra'ui lemachal. You might be surprised, but I was also asked about dog food. And one of the people that asked me about dog food ate his dog's food, and he said it's quite tasty, it's not bad. It's just expensive, and therefore he wouldn't eat it himself. So dog food, he said, is not bad. It definitely is ra'ui l'achilas kelev. We would assume it's ra'ui l'achilas kelev. And he said it's not even ra'ui l'achilas kelev, it's also ra'ui l'achilas odom. But the food of fish is not ra'ui l'achila. So going back to the Bechor Shor, other achronim, based on the Bechor Shor, argue.
Because it's betzem ra'ui l'achilas adam, even though no one would think about it. And others.
If it is chometz and it's ra'ui l'achilas adam, then it would be a question of balya roa, but balya mutza.
Fish food is ra'ui l'achilas dogim. That's the problem. It's ra'ui l'achilas behemoths chayis dogim.
Yes. Rabbi Dishwitz, did you see the tshuva I wrote about this? Yeah? So my argument was, based on the Ran, why do we need nifsal ma'achilas kelev? Because it's ra'ui lechametz vo'isois acheres. Fish food is not ra'ui lechametz boy. And if it's not ra'ui lechametz boy, it doesn't have a din of sa'oyer, and it depends on achilas odom. That was my maskana. And I would be happy to have my chuvas available for the Kohelim guide. It would be a big excuse for me, because Darka Shultoida is there, Boinav is there, so my heter on feeding fish their food, even though it is chometz, it's not the uil achilas adam. But by chometz you need nifsal machilas kelev. The only reason you need nifsal machilas kelev is when we're dealing with actual chometz, which is the uil chametz boy. You can use it as yeast, you can use it as sa'oyer, but not fish food. In no way could you use it to be machametz isas acheres, and therefore it would once again depend on achilas adam and not on achilas kelev. But that's a good ha'ora. Why would it need to be ra'ui l'achilas kelev? If it's fish food, it should be enough if it's ra'ui l'achilas dogim. So coming back to the Bechor Shor, so some achronim argue, if we accept the basis, the fundamental argument of the Bechor Shor, that we don't rely on haroma only regarding it as a rabbanon, so how could we rely on haroma in our mechiras chometz? Obviously, what you're mevatel you do not sell, and what you sell you're not mevatel, because these two concepts are fundamentally a tar to the sasa. You cannot be mevatel chometz that you sold, and you can't sell chometz that you were mevatel. So which comes first, bittul or mechira? Usually mechira comes first, and bittul comes first. Harashah comes before bittul. But a person is mevatel chometz la'acha b'dikas chometz by night, and the Rav doesn't sell the chometz till tomorrow morning. So after bechiras chometz by night, we're mevatel the chometz de lo chamite. We're not mevatel the chometz that we set aside for seifes chometz, because we want to be mekayim the mitzvah of seifes chometz. After seifes chometz, we do bittul chometz once again, and then we're mevatel all the chometz, the chamitei v'de lo chamitei, the chazitei v'de lo chazitei. So the argument is, if you're mevatel chometz, then the mechira doesn't have any validity. So obviously, you're not mechaven to sell what you were mevatel. You are mechaven to sell what you set aside. You put into special cabinets, and you're not mevatel that chometz. So every makom is chometz, every mechira is chometz, in our day, according to our minig, is needed for a diuraisa, and not only a rabbanon. And I argue that that argument is not valid, it's not right. Because the Mechira and the Bitul, even though we assoy that Vora Markarta the Sata, but our Kavona is, if there's any problem with the Mechira, let it be Bitul. If there's any problem with the Bitul, let it be Mechira. So our Bitul refers to all the Chometz in our possession, and the Mechira refers to all the Chometz in our possession, and it's not a Tata the Sata. And therefore, we once again go back to the assumption that our Mechiras Chometz isn't needed for a diuraisa because mediuraisa bebitul ba'al nesagi. And in the Shitrei Harashoa that we use, it is clearly stated that I sell all the Chometz, not only the Chometz that I set aside in special cabinets, all the Chometz that have the Kol Mokem Shehu should be included in the Mechira. And we say the same regarding the Bitul. So the Bitul and the Mechira, it is not that I am mevatel this Chometz and I sell that Chometz. I am mevatel all the Chometz in my possession and I sell all the Chometz in my possession. How could one sell what he was mevatel? How could one be mevatel what he sold? He can't. And that is why we don't say a brochan Bitul Chometz, we don't say a brochan Mechiras Chometz. But our kavona is to be on the safe side. If there's any deficiency on the mechira, then we rely on the bittul. If there's any chesed in the bittul, we want to rely on the mechira. And therefore, the basic assumption of the b'chor is correct and it's valid. Mechiras chometz is not needed in our days, only for the rabbonon because mediuraisa bebitul ba'al mesagi.
Raz, in his Seder Mechiras Chometz, he argues on the Bechar Shar. He argues that Bittul can't have a kiyum for masna that should be mocher, because the mice it's locked up in the cabinet, and mechaven to be liskois by lachar apesa. So al atzad from the is no good. There's no Bittul here, because after all, you're saving your Chometz, you're waiting to take it, Matzah Yontiv. That's the Graz's man. The second paragraph.
Yes, I think I brought this argument, but I think that one could argue against this assumption. I think the bittul might be a bittul gomer even though he has in mind, but maybe it depends how we define bittul chometz. If bittul is hefker, it is clear that one could be mafker, even though his kavona is la'achas man to be choyze v'zoicha. If bittul is bittul beliboy, and it is ka'afra de alma, maybe according to him, there is more validity to the argument of Shulchan Aruch Harav that if this chometz is kosher beinecha, and you intend to buy it back, then the bittul is not a real bittul. But my more important argument is what I wrote in Minchas Osher, Shalosh Tshuvas, Chelik Beisim and Memhei, a very lengthy and very important tshuva. And I argue that we rely on haromis even by a diuraisa. And I brought many sources. There's a Perek in Masechet Bchoros Keitzad Marimen. There's a Mishnah in Maser Sheni Perek Daled, Marimen al Maser Sheni. There are sugis mefaroshes, the beginning of Masechet Bchoros. And the entire concept of Heter Iska, we're not learning Hilchas Libis, but the entire concept of Heter Iska, let me make this very clear, is based on Haroma. Heter Iska was never a Tmimistic document, and every Heter Iska is Haroma. We rely on Haromas even Legabe Diuraisa Loki Divya Shor. And I think, and I say this with tremendous Hachnoa and Harotza, I think the Bechor Shor confused two different concepts of Aroma. Shabbos Kuf Lametes, Shabbos Daf Mem Gimel, we find that we don't rely on Harumas only by a Derabanan. What are we dealing with in these sugyas? Marim Odom ala Mishmeres. He could be toilet a Mishmeres. What is a Mishmeres? Strainer. Laniach by Remoinim. And once it's in place, he puts Shemorim. Shabbos Mem Gimel. Mesa Mutal Bechama. So people, and we're afraid that the body will decompose, and it would be a terrible bezoin for the mace. So people go out there and sit, and they just want to sit and enjoy, and it's hot. So they bring something to cover themselves, to make some shade, and their kavanah is actually for the mace. That is a harama. So we're dealing with an Issa Derabanan, and therefore there were matter harama. Shabbos Kuf Lametes, and Issa Derabanan matter harama. And these sugis, we're not dealing with a kinyan. But a kinyan shel harama, we rely even by a diuraisa. So the Mechiras bases his ruling on a different concept, which is not a harama which is based on kinyonim. It is just a harama which we know is not honest. It's not true. The reason you're sitting out there is not because you want to sit there. You have an air-conditioned room at home. You're just sitting on there because you want to cover the mace. And the reason you're hanging this strainer is not because you want to put remoinim in there. You have remoinim in your cabinet in the kitchen. But you're putting remoinim there just because you want the strainer in place. That is a aroma on which we cannot rely only by a derabanan. But when we're dealing with a mechira, the mechira is valid. And we rely on Mechiras aroma even regarding the Uraisa, as I proved from many sources in Poiskim and even in Chazal. And that is Minchas Shalosh Tuvas Chelik Beis Simen Mem Hey, and that is why, besides the argument I said before, that Mechira and Bitul refer to the same Chometz, and a person sells all his Chometz, and he is Mavatal all his Chometz, I think that one could rely on aroma even regarding a diuraisa.
Why isn't more of a sad that
What?
Why isn't more of a sad that aroma doesn't work? Dafka by kinyan, but you need das.
I think to the contrary, because the haramas in Shabbos Kuf Lametes, Shabbos Mem Gimel, are a sheker. They're an obvious sheker. Afar Piken Hetiru, because it's a derabanan, and we assume that was das chachamim. But when we're dealing with kinyonim, the reason I do this is a harama. But once we agree, these are the conditions of the kinyan is totally valid. It has no cheson in validity.
The Ritva, who's the Rav brings in the Tshuva, in the beginning of the second parak, Ritva is Hakamach, it seems to be Machmir, says if you do it every year, then it's Kipikod. Mela, you can't sell the Chum to the same guy every year.
But that halakha is not ongenim in the halakha. The Vis Yosef doesn't paskin it, and nobody paskins it. Yes, I brought the Ritva, but
The Mishnah in Meiser Sheni, when it says your Marim on Meiser Sheni, is talking about one case in the Mishnah at least is talking about when you keep the Meiser Sheni, you give the money to someone else to be paid there. So no kinyan on the Meiser Sheni itself.
no, the Mishnah deals with both cases. Either you give away the Maser Sheni and you're appointed with your money, or you give away money and you keep the Maser Sheni. The Mishnah refers to both
It's not a
situations.
problem the fact that he's still the ball of the Meiser Sheni. He's sending
No,
him
so this proves that we rely on kinyonim that are totally haramas. But it's a kinyan. And if these are the conditions, and if both parties agree, then the kinyan is valid. Then that is exactly my argument. A kinyan shel aroma is totally valid. And therefore, it's a better to me, Chuvas Chasam Sofer Yoredesim and Shin Yudalad, that some Sofer asks, how do we rely, not Shin Yudalad, but Shin Yud, how do we rely on Mechiras Chometz when we know that the guy really has no intention of buying the Chometz? And the Chasam Sofer's Tshuva is more astonishing than a Shaila, and he says, we don't really care whether the guy purchased the Chometz. The Ikar is, we sold it. From our point of view, it's not ours. Whether he is mechaven to buy or not, what do we care? V'lo yehayeh lehefker. Let it be hefker. But it's not hefker. And hefker wouldn't work. Midrabanan at least, hefker wouldn't work. You can't have chumash shel hefker in your possession. You need mochel anochri v'yichid loy bayis. So the Sam Sofer argues, what do we care whether he's koina? The yichid is we sold, but if he isn't koina, then the chometz never left your possession. So the Sam Sofer is a pella. It's a gemor meforeshes in Bava Basa Kuf Lamed Ches. If a person sells something to another party and that other party is moisemedur that he doesn't want to buy, then it's not hefker. If the koine isn't koine, then the moicher still has what he intended to sell. But I argue, why would we say the guy has no kavanah to buy? I think in every acquisition there are two parts. And sometimes the purchaser has no kavanah to have personal use from what he purchases, but the purchase is still a valid purchase. So many people buy real estate in faraway countries, and they just buy in order to sell. Person buys real estate in Hong Kong. He has no intention of moving to Hong Kong, but he buys just to make a profit and sell. I think when a guy buys chometz, it's the most enticing investment in the entire world, because the minig is he pays 50 shekel, and the minimum he is paid after Pesach is 200 shekel. I'm the cheapest Rav in Yerushalayim. I have my guy pay 50 shekel and I pay him 200 shekel. Once my guy came with tinus, he heard that others get 500 shekel, 1,000 shekel. So my guy had complaints. In 1 week, he makes 400% on his money. Is there any investment in the entire world in which 1 week you make 400% and it's guaranteed? It's not, it doesn't depend on the markets, there's no fluctuation, you can't go wrong. So I don't think there's a better investment anywhere in the world. So why would we say he doesn't really have kavanah to buy? I mean, it's a great investment. He has kavanah to buy, and he sells it back, and he makes a lot of money. So the fact that he doesn't have kavanah to eat the chometz means nothing. He doesn't want to buy to eat. He doesn't want to consume it. He buys in order to sell. And we rely on haramis that are kinyonim even by diuraisa. Lo kedivra chorsho.
In Igros Moshe, they bring that he was makbid that Rosh, the guy should pay enough money that there should be a shavu pruta for every moicher chometz.
Yeah, that is not an Igros Moshe. That goes all the way back to Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan.
Right.
That's a ha'or of Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan. And the question is, when a goy sells, how do we define the shlichus? Do we need a pruta for every one of the actual owners of the chometz, or it's enough if the shaliach gets a pruta and he is authorized to sell? So I wrote a kuntris, and I think it was a lengthy tshuva. I think it was printed in the sefer of our dear friend in Koil, Rav Ovadia Yosef Toledano, on the Sefer Mechiras. I think he printed what I wrote, and I dealt with this question. And my conclusion was we rely that we don't need a pruta against every one of the marashim. So if you have a big crowd that sells chometz, then you need to take some more money. But the minig is not to be makbid. And the first that comes up with this ha'ora is the Be'er Yitzchak Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan deals with this question. So there's a very famous Masas Binyamin, and I want to talk a few minutes about the Masas Binyamin because it's a Gavaldik Kiddush. And the question is, to what extreme do we take this Masas Binyamin? The Masas Binyamin was in the days of the Beis Yosef, a little bit younger than the Beis Yosef. He was a friend of the Ramah, and in Chuvas Masas Binyamin Simenun Tes, he deals with a Maisa Shahoyo, a person sold chometz, and the only kinyan he used was kinyan kesef. And it's no wonder, because as I explained before, it's less than 200 years that the Rabbanim take care of the Mechira. And the entire world uses more or less the same shtoros, and we all do the same kinyonim, and it's a combination of 6 different kinyonim regarding Hamokim Sheman, Munach Chometz, and then 6 different kinyonim which are chal on the chometz itself, but once upon a time each individual sold his chometz. So all the person did is the guy paid money and he sold him his chometz. And it's a big machlokes whether kinyan kesef is sufficient. Ben Yisrael a guy. So the Masas Binyamin b'diavad is Mekel, and the Masas Binyamin writes, he bases his ruling on the Ran. So the Ran, in the beginning of Masechet Pesachim, the Ran deals with the question regarding Bittul Chometz. The Lashon of the Gemara is Mevatlei B'liboy. And according to the Ran, Bittul is Hefker. So how could it be Mevatlei B'liboy? Hefker tzorech liyos b'fnei shloisha. And Bittul Chometz is never b'fnei shloisha. Nowhere do we find that Bittul Chometz needs to be b'fnei shloisha. So the Ran has two problems with Bittul Chometz. Hefker definitely needs to be b'peh, and it needs to be b'fnei shloisha. Bittul Chometz is Mevatlei B'liboy. So the Ran writes. בעצם שני דבר אמינה ברשוסי של אדם, ועשון הכוסף כאילו הם ברשוסי. So it is enough if we have a gilui das that he doesn't really want this chometz. And then we say, Loi asoy akosov ke'ilu hu b'rshusoi. So the gilui dat is sagi. That is what the Ran says. So the Masas Binyamin says, this person sold this chometz. So he proved he doesn't want to have this chometz on Pesach. So the gilui dat is sagi. Just like the Ran writes, that is why we rely on Bittul Chometz B'liboy, Bittul Chometz Shelo B'fnei Shloisha. The gilui dat is sagi, and therefore he's not over on Bal Yarov, Bal Yamotza. And the Masas Binyamin quotes the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef quotes the Ran, and therefore it is enough to steer clear from the Issa of Bal Yarov, Bal Yamotza. Nahar Sholem, one of the most important Sforim on Shulchan Aruch Chaim, in Siman Tov Ches, quotes the Masas Binyamin, and he rejects the Masas Binyamin, and his argument is that all that this Yosef means to say is if a person did is shaliach to be mevatel chometz, he could rely on the bittul of the shaliach, and that's the machlokes of the Rishonim. The Ran brings the Balaitur that one cannot be mevatel chometz al yedei shaliach because bittul is hefker and hefker is neder, and a person can't make a neder al yedei shaliach. And the Beis Yosef says, b'diavad you can be mevatel al yedei shaliach because shnei devarim eina b'shusay shel adam. That is the Beis Yosef. So the Nahar Sholem argues that this Beis Yosef is different because actually he is mechaven lahafkir, and if he's mechaven lahafkir, even though the hefker is somewhat problematic, we say the hefker is still valid. But by the Masas Binyamin, he wasn't mechaven lahafkir. His intention was to sell, and if the Mechiras is not valid, it doesn't become hefker. So that's the argument of Nahar Sholem. But the Masas Binyamin actually is reasonably based on the Lashon of the Ran. The Ran says, Shnei dvarim eina b'shusay shel adam, v'ason hakosav kina b'shisay. So it's enough if we have a gilui das. But the big problem with the Masas Binyamin is how far would we take this argument? Almost every year, as I finish the Mechiras Chometz and I say goodbye to the guy, they're always the latecomers. They run up the steps in Rachov Kagan, could we still sell Chometz? And I say, I'm sorry, we sent the guy away. So what I do is I include in the Mechiras Chometz all those people that are on their way here, or the people that usually sell with us Chometz and they forgot or they didn't even get around to do it. Does anybody remember this discussion? Does anybody here remember this discussion? I think just 2 months ago. Yeah? When we discussed could a person be mafresh challah for the entire city, for the entire world, for the entire country? And I related to the question, could a person sell chometz of the entire world or the entire city? And I said that if you're dealing with a group that could be defined, then one could rely by the evidence, b'shas adchak, that it's valid, but not for an unlimited number of people for the entire world, or a city that has 500,000 toshavim that never see each other and don't know each other. It would be different. So I do include in the Mechira people of our Kehillah, of our community, the people that usually sell Chometz by me, the people that might be on their way here. So, b'di'evid, one could rely that the Mechira is valid. But why wouldn't we use the Masas Binyamin? Giludatoi, or a person is at home and he tells his family, I don't feel well, but I'm a Galadas. I would very much like to sell my Chometz to the Rav, and I would hope by a miracle he might show up at my doorstep, and I would be happy to sell him the Chometz. So, how far do we go with this Masas Binyamin? Shnei Devorim Ein V'Shir Shel Odom, Dai Begilui Das. So, Ibedidi Talia, I would say, all the Ran is Mechadash is that if a person is mafkir, the kavanos lahafka, and he is mafkir, even though the hefker is not according to kol proteo v'digdukeo shetiknu chachomim, the hefker is still valid. By a stretch, we would accept the Beis Yosef hifkar al yidei shaliach, even though there is no shlichus by hefker, gam bezeh mahani. But saying, person did a kinyan, but the kinyan isn't valid. He wasn't mafkir. And after all, a person needs to be mevatel chometz or mafkir chometz. So this Masas Binyamin is a big chiddush. So the Magen Avraham quotes the Masas Binyamin, and the Magen Avraham says you don't need Mesiras Maftayach. So the Magen Avraham does apply the Masas Binyamin to Mechira, and he accepts the Masas Mechira. And I would still argue, at least he did a Mechira. He did a Mechira. So the Ran says he did a Hefker, but the Hefker wasn't entirely valid. He did a Mechira, but the Mechira wasn't entirely valid. So the Magen Avraham obviously does rely on the Masas Binyamin. That is an interesting thing. One other topic I would like to discuss, because I know that you spoke about it in Koilel, and that is the Chumrah of the Makor Chaim regarding Chometz Shekibel Olav Achrayis. So the Makor Chaim, as you know, is the Nesivos. And the Nesivos was a Gevaldige Charaf and a Gevaldige Chadshim. And the Makor Chaim finds a fundamental problem in all the Shitra Mechiras Chometz that we use. And he argues, based on the Gemara in Daf Hey, Chometz Shanochi Shekibel Olav Achrayis. Person is over Bali Rova Bali Motza. And Chazal Darshan from Lo Yemotzei, Motzoi Biyodai. And I think I said a shir when we started learning Psochim about the concept of Motzoi Biyodai. And the question we discussed is, what is the Yesod of the Yisra of Bali Rova Bali Motza? Is it Shaloi or Bershusoi? And I explained it's not Shaloi, it's not Bershusoi. It's a new definition, which is unique to the Sugya of Bali Rova Bali Motza, and it's Motzoi Biyodai. So, if a Jew gets a pekodin from a guy and kibbel olav achrayis, and it's a machlokes and a shoynim, what level of achrayis? Achrayis of a shoyel, oinsim, or achrayis of gneva v'aveda. But kibbel olav achrayis, the yisor is over on Bali Roa and Bali Motza. So the Makor Chaim says, we sell the chometz to the guy. So the chometz is in our possession, but it actually belongs to the guy. And the guy pays a deposit. And he needs to pay all the rest. And he is mechabel olav achrayis. But we know that the achrayis is a joke. And if the chometz will be burnt or destroyed or just disappear, then the guy wouldn't pay a cent of the money he owes us. So that is chometz which is b'achrayis Yisrael. So how would the mechira work? If it would really be the guy's chometz, and it would be a pekodem b'rishu seinu, kibbel olav hayisor achrayis, then he's over on Bali Rova Bali Motza. And this chometz is ba'achrayis Yisrael. And if the chometz gets lost by any way, the guy wouldn't pay. That means it's B'achrayis Yisor. So that is the argument of the Makar Chaim. And the Shulchan Aruch Harav is actually choishish to the Makar Chaim. And that's why Shulchan Aruch Harav says, you need an Orev Kabbalan. An Orev Kabbalan, that if the guy doesn't pay, he will be willing to pay. And if there's an Orev Kabbalan, then the Yisor, Loi Kibel Olav Achrayis. But the solution of the Shulchan Aruch Harav in itself is a very problematic solution. So who would that Orav Kabbalan be? If he's a goy, then it's okay, but you'll never find a goy to be an Orav Kabbalan. So if the Yisor is an Orav Kabbalan, it's in his achrayis. Okay, but it's not his pekodim. So there is no chiyuv only if it's his pekodim. Most achronim rejected the Makor Chaim, but they rejected the Makor Chaim in several different ways and for several different svoros and different angles. And most of the tshuvas I'm aware of that reject the Makor Chaim are from Gedoyle Poilim, Gedoyle Galicia, and not always do they clearly define what they mean to say. So the Shoel HaMeishav has about 6 or 7 sources in his Sefer in which he deals with the Makor Chaim, and he totally rejects him, and he says it's a milsa d'tmiyah, but it is not very clear what he means to say. Shoel HaMeishav, Madura Alaf Chelek Alaf Simen Pei Vav, Madura Gimel Chelek Beis Simen Kuf Mem Ches. The question starts in the first Sif in Simen Tov Mem, in the din of Chometz Shekibel Olav Achrayis. So the Mechaber writes, Ein a Yehudi, which actually means goy. Shiv ketchem tziyetzel Yisrael. Imu chayim b'achrayis meganai v'varei, the ben shu b'beisa, ben shu b'kol mokom b'shusoi, chayim l'vayar. Yesh oimrim, she'afilu einay olav elu shoy mechinam, shechayim b'pshia, chayim l'vayar. V'afilu ameinu chayim b'achriyusoi b'din, ele sheyodea sha'goy alem, v'yichpeu l'shalem im yoivad, Chayev levaroi. That is the Shittas Rambam. Perik Dalad Aloha Dalad. Chometz Matzah. So the Gemara says, Kibbul Olav Achrayis. The Rambam is Mechadish. If Yisur got a pekodin from a guy, and he promised to look over the pekodin, and he wasn't mekabel any Achrayis, but if he knows that the guy is powerful and violent, and he will kill him if he doesn't pay, then Yesoiva Babali Roa Babali Mutza, Vachayev Levayeres Chometz. The Ravid disagrees.
Shlomo.
And the Ravid argues,
Says Shlomo.
Kibbul Olav Achrayis is only Achrayis B'din. But an Achrayis which is not based on din, it's just a fact, is not Motzu B'yodoi. That's the opinion of the Ravid. And the Mechaber brings both shittas. Yes, Shoimim. Shafilu eino yolav ela shoim echinam. No. Vafilu em eino chayev b'achrayis, ela sheyodea, she'en Yehudi alam v'yichpeu l'shalom em yoived, chayev levaroi, v'yesh choyokim. So the Mechaber brings 2 different opinions. Both are Yesh Oimrim. According to the Yad Malachi, when the Mechaber brings 2 different opinions, Yesh Oimrim, Ikar Shitosoi Kishito Shniyot. And the second opinion that the Shulchan Aruch brings is the Ravid, that Be'agoy Alim, there is no Chiyuv. So by basic halachic definition, we don't really need to be choishish to the Makor Chaim, because by halachic definition, the guy bears total achrayis, not the Jew. That is clear in the Shtar Mechira. So the Makor Chaim argues, according to the second opinion of the Mechaber, we have a problem. The Mishnah Berurah Simchot Meches writes, Yesh oimrim, v'lechatchila, yesh lochosh l'dei yazu, lefichoch, im ha'akum bala pekodin lefonov, tzorech lahachzaloi. And if him ein ha'akim kan, yasa b'ches chumetz v'yavatel gam kein. So the Mishnah Berurah writes, Yesh lahachmir kishit zu. And why is that? Sheyesh Lahachma. So we call Shulchan Aruch Harav, Chok Yankov, Elya Rabba, Chai Odom. So why do we have to be machmir according to the first shitta? Two reasons. The Yad Malachi writes, so the basic klal is, Ikar Shittas HaHalacha, Ki Yesh Oimrem Basra. But why does the Mechaber bring Yesh Oimrem Kama? In Beis Yosef, there are machlokes almost in every sif in Shulchan Aruch. But in most cases, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring both opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. So the Yad Malachi explains, and this is one of the Klola HaHeroah, when the Mechaber brings two opinions, even if Ikar Da'atek is Shita Kamoeh or Shita Basor, the reason he brought the other opinion is Lachatchila Yesh La'achmir. That's one reason. But the Mishnah Berurah on Sif Koten Test writes, Yesh Cholkim, the Kivin Sheisora Kibro Levachayis, V'potor Medin Toero Medin HaMalchis, Ein HaChometz Nechshev Kishaloi, U'Makol Makom, U'Ikar Kedei Rishoino, U'Ikar Kedei Rishoino. It's not only that we need to be machmir lechatchila kedei rishoina, ikar kedei rishoina. However, mekol mokomim over olav Pesach, over olav Pesach ein lahachmir v'afilu b'achila mutar. So on one hand, he writes ikar kedei rishoina, but lagava chometz over olav Pesach, he is matir even lechatchila afilu b'achila. Why? Tzvei kedei rabbanon lekula. Chometz over olav Pesach is a derabanan. And even though Ikar Keshita Rishayna, the Gaba Chometz over on Pesach were make. So this is a matter of dispute. Is the Ikar Keshita Rishayna? That is what the Mishnah Berurah writes, because many Gedolei Achronim rule according to the Shita Rishayna, which is Shita Rambam, including the Chok Yankov, Elya Rabba, and Shulchan Aruch Harav. But if we rely on the Yad Malachi's klolim, then the Ikar Das Shulchan Aruch is Keshita Achronim. So Reb Shlomo Kruger, when he deals with this question in Elef L'cha Shlomo, Siman Reish Memvov Orach Chaim, he writes, the Shittas Rambam is a Shitta Dechuyo. So obviously he disagreed with the Mishnah Berurah. And Reb Shlomo Kruger writes that the Chok Yankov and the Shulchan Aruch Harav aren't right. But we are choshesh to the Mishnah Berurah, and it does seem to be clear that most of Gedolei Achronim maintain Keshittas HaRambam. But I want to quote two fundamental svaros to reject the Chumrah of the Makor Chaim, and I think both these svaros are extremely well-founded and reasonable. One is the Divrei Chaim, Shuvas Divrei Chaim, Orach Chaim, Chelik Beisim and Mem. The Divrei Chaim argues, the Machlekes Rambam and Ravid is only by Yisrael shekibel pikodoin lishmira, and he promised to look after this pikodoin. We need a pikodoin, loy kibel olav achrayas, but in practicality, you know that you have achrayas, even though loy kibel olav achrayas. But you know as a fact that you have to pay up. But if there is no pikodoin, then, and the Jew never promised to look after the chometz of a goy, in that case, even a goy alim, it would not be defined as motzui biyodoi. And therefore, by our Mechiras chometz, it's not a pikodoin, and the Jew never obliged himself to take care or look after the chometz. The goy never demanded it. So in that case, the factual achrayas would have no significance. So the Divrei Chaim argues, if a guy just threw his chametz into the chotzer of Yisrael without his consent, the Jew never was aware and he never gave him permission to do so. But a goyish neighbor, a gavra alma, brought his chametz into the Jew's house and put it on the table, and the Jew knows of chas v'sholem, this chametz will get lost. You will have to pay. In that case, it's not motzei biyodoi. The Machlokes Rambam and Ravid only applies to a pekodin in which the Yisrael took upon himself to look after the pekodin, but he wasn't mekabel achrayas. But if we know the guy will demand achrayas, then it has a din of chometz kibel olav achrayas. In our case, it's not a pekodin. The Yisrael never took upon himself to safeguard or look after the Chometz for the Goy, and therefore it's not relevant. But I think the more powerful argument, which we also find in various Divrei Achronim, and I think probably that's the kavanah of the Shoel HaMeshev, Imre Yosher, Rameir Arak, Chelik Beisim, and Kuf Chov Daled. And this is what I said when I spoke to Rav Dershowitz about this. I think Kibbutz of Achrayis is only when the Yisrael will have to pay money out of his pocket. In our case, the Yisrael wouldn't have to pay. It's just that the Goy wouldn't pay what he took upon himself. That's a chayiv. That's a mandatory chayiv. That doesn't put the Chometz into the possession of the Yisrael. The Goy owes money. We know that he won't pay. So, you could try to get the money out of him. You don't have much of a chance because he's not kofif to Beis Din, and the Beis Mishvat wouldn't require him to pay for this purchase. But that is not achrayas, which renders the chometz motzui biyodoi shel Yisrael. It is only kabbalas achrayas in which the Yisrael will have to pay out of his pocket if this chometz is lost. And therefore that is motzui biyodoi. But in our case, the Yisrael just won't get the money that the Goy promised. The Yisrael never really planned to get the money, and therefore that would not be defined as kabbalas achrayas to make the chometz motzui biyodoi. So these two arguments are the arguments that most Rav Rubam Shel Achronim reject the Mekor Chaim, and therefore I do not use the Or of Kabbalah. And I think Ruba de Alma were not makabel the chumrah of Shulchan Aruch that we need Or of Kabbalah, and I think the Mekor Chaim is a Chiddush Gadol. So la'alocha l'maisa, I'm not choishish to the Mekor Chaim.
The Shtaros all put in the Maisa they write that the Goy is makabel all achrayis ointzim pshia alsa. Maybe if we're not choishish for the Mekor Chaim, we should take out that line. It's a chuch b'tzula in the shtar. The shtar is a serious shtar. In that line, it's not a serious line. He's makabel achrayis pshia. If the yid is peshe and burns down his house, it says the Goy is makabel achrayis. What are we gaining by that line?
What we're gaining by that line is, after all, the entire chumrah of the Mekor Chaim is based on Shittas Rambam. If we don't have that line, we might have a problem with the Ravid as well. Because if the Goy is never makabel achrayis, and it is officially and halachically b'achrayis Yisrael, then we have a problem according to the Ravid as well.
Maybe to just write the Yisrael is not makabel any achrayis. That's emes. Not makabel achrayis.
Yes. You have a point. Maybe it would be better to write that the Yisrael is not makabel achrayis, no achrayis, and so we're yotze according to the Ravid, better than write that the Goy is makabel achrayis, which we know is a chukah v'tlum. I will consider that. Maybe this coming year we will change
There's
that.
a question I saw in the Sefer, Avodah Sefer, about if the Chometz is in danger, Hefsed Meruba, could the Yid actually go save it via dying?
Yes, I wrote a tshuva about that. And Behefsed Meruba I was makel. I was asked that question a few times. Actually, a Yisrael sold Chometz to a Goy. And the Chometz was in freezers, in huge freezers. And he was notified Chalamoid that there is a Ketzach Hashmali. And if he won't act immediately, then he will lose a lot of money. So the fact that he wakes up in the middle of the night and spends a lot of money to either fix what's broken or transfer the Chometz. I was actually asked, could he transfer the Chometz to another place? And the question is twofold. Roitze b'kiyumoi, and would that invalidate the Mechiras? And Lamaisa I was makel on both counts. And I said, after all, it's not a secret that the Yisrael intends to buy it back after a Pesach. I mean, and that is legitimate. That's in the Shulchan Aruch, it's in the Rambam, and it's in the Tosefta. Even though the plan is lechatchila that I'm going to buy it back. So the fact that I am, spending time and money that the chometz shouldn't be lost, that does not invalidate the mechira. It's not a secret that I do intend to buy back the chometz. And mitzad roitze b'kiyumoi, it's a complicated sugya. In what cases exactly is there an issa roitze b'kiyumoi? But lamaisa, I was mekel. I don't know what Rav Avadi brings, but I wrote a lengthy tshuva and I was mekel. Okay, so we discussed some practical shaylas of Mechiras Chometz, and we also discussed some yesoides, primarily the Masas Binyamin, which is a big chiddush in the sugya of Mechiras Chometz, and befrat the din of Kabbalah Sachrayas.